Geopolitical tensions and securing Singapore's future were among the key themes of this year's National Day rally. It comes amid worsening ties between the US and China, as well as Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Earlier tonight, Mediacorp's Glenda Chong spoke with Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Lawrence Wong, who broke down the themes.
Basically, in a more contested geopolitical space, we must expect external actors to conduct influence operations around the world and in Singapore, which means they will try to push out their views in our community and shape public opinion in the hope that public opinion in turn will nudge and influence the government to adopt certain positions. And if that were to happen, it basically means that the government will not be able to act in the interest of Singapore and Singaporeans, because we will end up acting in the interest of other countries. So that's what's at stake. Basically, it's our sovereignty at stake and our ability to do what is right for Singapore and Singaporeans. And that's why it is a very serious matter. That's why the Prime Minister said, get real, and we must take this seriously. We must all stay united and vigilant against such external influences.
So when you say stay vigilant, how should we go about staying vigilant, and how can we read these signs? How do we know that it's going to happen, and how do we prepare for it?
So at the very basic level, it means we should all be very clear what are Singapore's national interests. The government will try our best to explain that every time we conduct foreign policy. And also at the personal level, all of us should be on our guard against potential misinformation or information campaigns that may be conducted by external parties. If you're not sure, then don't transmit on the WhatsApp to your friends. And best of all, listen to CNA and Channel 5.
So that's on the very base level. But then, based on the conversations on the ground, there is a concern that Singaporeans really don't prioritize the shifting of geopolitics the same way as we give weight to bread and butter issues.
Sure.
So how should we be addressing this instead? How should we give more weight or understand what's happening around us regionally?
We will try to explain, but I think it's understandable why Singaporeans may not give weight to these global or geopolitical issues. It's not unique to Singapore. It's true everywhere around the world. And in particular in Asia, we have seen peace and stability in this part of the world for more than 50 years since the end of the Vietnam War. So it's not surprising that people find it hard to imagine how things might be different. So from that point of view, I think I can understand why Singaporeans are more focused on the immediate concerns and bread and butter issues. But we should also recognize that Singapore is quite different from other countries. We are very small and open. We import almost everything that we consume. And so what happens overseas will have a very direct impact on our lives, as we are feeling right now with the impact of inflation and higher prices. I think, besides dealing with this, we have to be mentally prepared. Besides inflation, we have to be mentally prepared that there will be potentially additional disruptions and shocks down the road, and the government will do everything we can to manage and deal with these shocks. But I think what's most important at the end of the day is that we continue to stay cohesive and united as a society in order to be able to navigate through a more dangerous and volatile external environment. And that's one of the reasons why we are talking about this Forward Singapore exercise, to refresh and strengthen our social compact for our next bound of development.
Right. So saying that, what is the long-term view that Singaporeans should take, and how would you like to see people here embrace this long-term view then?
The key long-term view, as I said, is that we must always stay cohesive and united. That's not to be taken for granted. But, I mean, if you think about this as a diverse, multiracial society, very young, for 57 years, we have not done too badly. And in the last 2.5 years, tackling COVID-19, that sense of solidarity has strengthened further. In fact, I'm sure everyone has seen the Pew survey that showed that I think something like 75% of people in Singapore feel that Singapore today is more united than we were before the pandemic. That's really quite remarkable, and we should not take that for granted. So what we hope to do is to build on this strong foundation to strengthen that sense of solidarity even further.
Right, but that's not to say that there aren't fault lines here, because PM, he talked about Forward SG, and in the context of the 4G team gearing up for the next chapter of Singapore's story. But we are undoubtedly a society of different people. We have different cultures, different races, different identity, even for that matter. Are you worried of fault lines?
Sure, these fault lines do exist. We take them very seriously, because we can see in other places how race, religion, and identity become entrenched as fundamental ideologies, and conflicts break out over these ideologies, and as a result, societies become much more divided and polarized. I think I would say we have not reached that stage, and we are not like that yet in Singapore, and I hope we will never get there. And that's the whole reason why we must continue to focus on the common ground that we have, seek to expand that common space, and seek to strengthen that sense of cohesion and solidarity as Singaporeans, which is the whole objective of this Forward Singapore exercise.
Well, beyond just these fault lines, we also have to acknowledge about the economy, because, as you mentioned at the launch of the Forward Singapore exercise, as Singapore prospers, we will ensure that our income and wealth gaps do not widen, and that every Singaporean has a fair share in the benefits of growth. How can this fair share of benefit of growth be achieved?
It's a work in progress. If you think about what has happened over the past decade, we have not done too badly. The income of workers at the lower end, their income growth has been faster than that of a median worker, which means that our income gap has been narrowing, not widening. So we will continue to see how we can achieve that going forward, because we are very clear that whatever the balance that we achieve as part of our refreshed social compact, it must be one that all Singaporeans accept as fair and just, and will be prepared to stand behind. And that means that the fruits of progress must always be shared across all segments of society. We do not achieve growth for growth's sake, but we must always have inclusive growth.
So how is Forward SG taking shape to date then?
Well, we have just started our engagement. It's been 2 months since we launched Forward SG. The 4G team and I have been undertaking our engagements for now in this initial phase in a smaller scale. But already we have received many useful insights from the public. And from next month onwards, we hope to ramp up our engagements at a much larger scale. So if I may just give a sneak preview. First, there will be many more engagements. People can go to the Forward SG website to register their interest and participate in these engagement sessions. And they will be done also in different vernacular languages so that Singaporeans can converse in a language that they are comfortable in. Second, we hope to go beyond just listening to feedback. So we will be developing more innovative engagement formats. For example, like a citizens panel, where citizens can come together on a particular issue that they care about, listen to views from different stakeholders, wrestle with the trade-offs behind that particular issue, and come up with their own preferred policy ideas and solutions. So that can allow them to go beyond just giving broad feedback. They can actually devise policy solutions. Third, we will see how we can engage ways for Singaporeans to take action. So go beyond ideas and policies, but take action, partnering with individuals, fellow Singaporeans, community groups, or even corporates to co-create solutions together. So these are some of the different ways we hope we can engage a wide range of Singaporeans, because this is important for all of us. It's about shaping our future together.
Right. But you also mentioned that the strong social compact must provide not just for this generation's needs, but it must also provide across generations, right? It has to be fair and equitable. How do we go about addressing this? Because, at the same time, Singapore needs to remain connected globally as well, and has to be open to foreign talent. And it's not, like we said, not unique to Singapore, but there's always this fear of them versus us, foreign versus local. This foreign-local divide, the anxiety over increased competition. How can we address this? How can we allay the concerns here?
Sure, it is a concern. We recognize that. There are legitimate concerns among Singaporeans about foreign competition. First of all, we have always said that Singapore must stay open. We are a global city. That's our raison d'etre, and that's our whole basis for existence. So it is quite an existential issue. We will, at the same time, have to do more to assure Singaporeans that even as we welcome talent and investments into Singapore, we will always, as I said just now, ensure that growth remains inclusive. The benefits of Singapore being a global city must be shared across all segments of society. And we will take steps, for example, to regulate the foreign inflow, to ensure that foreign professionals complement Singaporean workers, and to uphold fair employment practices at the workplace through including a new anti-discrimination law. The other part of sustaining this compact is to uphold a dual strategy. Two strategies. One, we keep Singapore a global city, attracting talent and investments because that will generate jobs and opportunities for everyone in Singapore. But the second part of this strategy is to invest heavily in every Singaporean throughout their lives and give them the best chance of maximizing their potential and being the best that they can be in their chosen fields and profession. And it's by doing both that we can continue to be a vibrant global city as well as an endearing home.
Right, but then there's also the concern that more foreigners could also change the Singaporean identity here. How can we address this meaningfully?
Sure. Well, there are different ways of addressing this. Number one, as I mentioned just now, we are not going to allow Singapore to be overwhelmed by foreign inflows because we are regulating the flows and we are making sure that the foreign professionals who come here complement Singaporeans at the workplace. So that's one basic way. The second is to strengthen efforts, do more to integrate the foreigners in our midst, especially at the workplace, so that they understand Singapore's values and way of life. And the third is really a responsibility for all of us too, to embrace people who are here contributing to Singapore. Our foreign workers, our foreign professionals. Look at just, for example, the foreign workers in our dormitories and the tremendous contributions they have made to Singapore, especially over the last 2.5 years, and the challenges that they have been through. So I think if we look at things from their perspective and how much sacrifices and contributions they have made, hopefully Singaporeans ourselves will be big-hearted and will embrace them because they are making important contributions to us as well.